If you own a SIG 516 Patrol and you love it, congratulations. I am happy for you. Don't sell it. However, if you are seeking information on this gun and wondering if I would buy it with my money, would I go out and spend $1,450 on a SIG 516 Patrol? The short answer is no, I would not. Sorry to burst your bubble if you're a 516 fan. But I only know how to do one thing with these tabletop reviews, and that is to deliver the truth as I see it. Doesn't mean I'll get every detail right. Doesn't mean that my data is infallible. Far from it. I have a sample of one. Maybe the gun I get is bad. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of variables that could skew the data. But you do get this. I tell you what happened. And the testing with the 516 in multiple outings was shocking. In some ways. Not totally. But in some ways it was like, what is going on with this gun? Especially for a high-priced tactical carbine from a very famous maker, which I generally like. Not always. People who infrequently watch the show here in TMP will come away with some misperceptions. There's 1,000 of them. One of them is that I love all things SIG. That's a SIG MCX at the top, and yeah, I still do love that gun despite its teething problems. It's recently been improved with a bolt carrier upgrade that you can get done to your gun if you have, like I do, an earlier generation. Send it back to SIG, they can change it, and you can look all the changes up. If you're interested, I have a video out on it too. Yeah, I love the MCX, but there's some other ones like the P290 I detest, and I've said as much. Some other ones that I look at and I go, oh, okay, this is okay. Not for me. I do like the P320, but I don't ever see myself buying that. So 516 time, here we go. It came out, I think, during the hype and high interest era in piston guns. So from about, what was it, 2012 to 14, I heard a lot about the 516, that it was the go-to piston gun. Got to get one. I didn't have the resources or the money or connections to secure one for loan. I don't like going direct to the manufacturer these days. I prefer to get it from a third party, because I'll generally piss them off with my reviews because they won't like what I say. That's why if you go to a manufacturer's website, you won't see any nut and fancy videos there. You'll see a lot of other gun tubers there. Not me. I'm unpredictable. They can't predict. They can't control my voice, so they don't like it. It's cool. Totally independent. And what you get in return for open-minded people is a GRV that will be helpful, hopefully. Like I say, though, if you have a 516, you love it, you don't want to hear anything negative about it, you can stop watching. That's okay. It's okay. If you're still here, though, I'm going to tell you the way it went down.
Yeah.
It went down. Now, generationally, the SIG 516 has changed. I did spend some time on the interweb searching around trying to find definitive answers from Gen 1 to later Gen 1 to early Gen 2s to later Gen 2s. And of course, there is really no clear-cut answer that you can trust. Sure, there's a bunch of forum threads that you can go in, get an idea more or less of what's changed. SIG does not make it clear, at least from what I saw. I may have missed it on their website. Why do they do that? Well, I think a lot of manufacturers will hide their generational improvements to all their guns because they don't want to look like they produced an inferior gun to start with. It kind of shows their failure. So if they're always saying, well, this was Gen 1, then we're going to improve that. And I kind of get that because a lot of people, end users, are not forgiving of that process. They're like, well, you did this, and they kind of put the finger in the manufacturer's chest. So the manufacturer says, you know what, we're not going to tell you. That might be it. Not definitive, it might be it, though. From what I can gather, and again, I'm not the expert on the 516, nor do I ever want to be, but this is a Gen 2, I think. There have been changes to the gas block over time. This, as you can see, is a two-step, if you want to, band gas block, not the single CNC milled version that was apparent on the earlier generations. It should be perhaps a little bit lighter. It's made of steel, it's double pinned, and if I'm not mistaken, has a non-threaded gas adjustment plug in it, kind of like the Adams Arms system. I actually like how it adjusts. It's a really easy adjusting gas system. That's very cool. They revised the bolt carrier group, I think. They made it lighter. Initially, I think, not positive, used LWRC bolt carrier groups, and they were like interchangeable. We may pop that out and take a look at it later. I don't know. Don't know. I think it's a Gen 2. The pictures on the website now in 2017 show a quad rail. They show this stock, if I'm not mistaken, and they show this gas block. They do show a rail that appears to be longer, however, and I have seen it with different furniture and different rear stocks. So they've mixed it up a lot. And if you're, you know, trying to keep tabs of all the changes and getting the latest and greatest 516, it's a confusing process. The big takeaway, and I want to foot stomp this, is this part right here is pretty much the same. The gun is essentially the same. A couple changes on the gas block. So I feel confident in doing one SIG 516 GRV and maybe never visiting it again. That's the way it's going to be mostly. They make an SBR version of the SIG 516 Patrol. You go on their website, check that out. This is obviously an FDE coded 516, which is cool. Looks great. I like it. And I was actually kind of surprised there weren't a ton of variations on it, and more, and I'll hit this again, even more surprised that the rail hasn't been changed to kind of represent, well, what we're seeing on the SIG MCX, something more trim. This is a key mod rail, more modernized, more skeletonized, thinner, more ergonomic, just so much better than these older quad rails. So that's one of the kind of showstoppers, really, because you can't easily change it. You can't, because it's proprietary. On the SIG 516, you can't just go out and say, well, I'm going to put an AR-15 rail on it. Well, no, you're not. As far as I know, you ain't going to do it. There you go. Philosophy of use will be standard. You know what that entails, right? I will add this. It was a gun that I think a lot of dudes who wanted something super high-end, maybe they were SIG fans, they wanted to go out and get it in, I don't know, circa 2012 or so, because they didn't want an AR, and they kind of bought off on all the hype that DI guns were broken and that you're an idiot if you owned one. I kind of stomped that goose to death. DI guns are awesome. And we have seen a total resurgence of DI guns, even from piston-only gun manufacturers like POF, that have come to tail and go, well, this is what the market wants. So the market figured out, well, it's worked for decades. I guess all the internet BS about freaking DI guns being broken was wrong. And it was. And you'll see that repeat over and over again on that subject. It was just about the gas system. So POU standard, SAWC design and ergos. I'll start with weight. And this is not a super heavy weight, but it's also not super light and not super impressive. With a GI 30 round mag, the SIG 516 Patrol weighs 7 pounds, 11 ounces. If you put a scope and mount on it, and I have a Gemtech Trek on it right now. In fact, I think I ran the whole test running the can on it. It's a lot heavier. You'll be close to 10 pounds. I'm not going to throw it on the scale for time, but it's stout. Let's see, the SIG MCX, and I'm just having this on here for tabletop fun. It was not 7 pounds, 7 ounces. It's lighter than that for sure. It's not like sub 7, but I think it's like low 7s before everything. So, you know, does that matter? It does to me. I mean, nowadays, a good AR-15 will be, without anything on it, around 7 pounds, a DI gun. And if you're going to say, well, I'll take more weight because it's piston. Man, I just kind of talked about that. It's like, well, I don't see it offering much advantage to me. I have said that if it's an SBR, if it's a suppressed operation, I do like piston, but shooting this gun suppressed, jumping ahead, it was flushing my face like a DI gun. And if I break it inside and you can see it, all the carbon, I mean, it was really pushing a lot of crap back into my face. And I honestly felt like I was shooting a DI gun, which is normal with a DI gun. You get some flush. You slightly minimize it with a gas buster charging handle, but not a lot. I want it to be super lightweight. I just built an AR-15. It was pretty lightweight. Let's start with a barrel of the SIG 516. I want to rip through this review as fast as I can. It's a Cold Hammer forged barrel. Initially, I believe it was chrome lined, and now it's nitrided. And it's a stepped barrel, as you can see here. And if you look under the handguard, it kind of tapers down like a lot. Let me get a light super quick. You'll see what I'm talking about. I'm not going to take it all apart. It just makes the video a lot longer. See that? So I would call it a medium profile barrel on the SIG 516. The quality seems to be excellent if it's CHF. It's a 1-in-7 twist, I believe. 1/2 inch by 28 threaded barrel, obviously. High quality barrel. On paper. Why do you say that? Well, I say that because we're going to look at accuracy, right? And what do I say about accuracy? It really drives to the barrel quality more than anything. It looks good. I love the nitride coating. I prefer that over chrome. I said that. And then I talked about, just super briefly, the gas block adjustment. There are 4 positions here on the gas block. You're going to have normal, adverse, suppressed, and off. Okay, and so this is adverse right here. And then if you push this little detent in right here, you can move it around to less gas. So this is less gas over here, more as I go here. And I like how clearly it's labeled. I don't know if you can see that because my hands are in the way. So now I'm in adverse conditions, and that's off with the X on it. Very positive gas system. I love the adjustment. I said that. So normally we'll fire it right there in that position. It's easier to field strip now with the later generation improvements. So that's cool. Dirt goes somewhere. I've always said that. And you're not going to have a free lunch when it comes to carbon fouling. Either you clean it in the bulk carrier group, you clean up here. I've said that too. Then we have something that looks like Troy battle sights on it. They're their proprietary sights. BUIS. I did not try those. They seem pretty excellent. So they pop up very Troyish. Troy may be making them for them. I'm not sure. And then we get to something I mentioned already that I don't like. The quad rail. It's heavy. It's fat. Yeah, we can put ladders on it and make it somewhat more comfortable. It's just old-fashioned. And it's also short. So I am these days kind of holding further forward on my AR shooting. Not always, but sometimes. You don't really have that option here. You can put a VG on it and that would help. But you'll see in our shooting sequences that it was like, I don't know, we kind of wish we had more real estate up there, for sure. The alignment between the rail and the top is cool, and they have it actually keyed between the top receiver and the handguard. This is serial number, by the way, 20 kilo 042954. It will be for sale at that gun store if you want it. Pretty much standard AR-15 on the lower here. It's kind of a heavier forging on the SIG 516 Patrol, as you can see. Do I need that heavier? What I'm talking about, you can see the gate around the magazine button. Do I need all that? I would say no. Anything that adds weight, I'm not digging it. Forward assist right here. I love the charging handle on it. It's a dual charging handle. Awesome. No problems. It's kind of like an upgraded feature on the SIG 516. And I like that it's a simple rotational safety. We don't have that silly 3-round burst. I don't like that. If it's not a full auto gun, don't give me anything that shows it being full auto. It's just kind of ridiculous in my mind. Let me show you the magwell here inside. Very AR-15-ish, like we were saying. And then we'll get to this, the trigger, which was atrocious and is atrocious. Hey, it's just a mil-spec variety trigger. Well, I've shot a lot of triggers at this point, and a lot of so-called mil-spec triggers, and a lot of them pull around 6 to 7 pounds. Are good. Smith & Wesson comes to mind. This one here is mushy to begin with, and then it pulls extremely hard. And the reason we need to talk about this, and guys get confused, is that remember the price, dudes. This is basically a $1,500 gun. You should have a pretty sweet trigger in it for $1,500, right? 11 pounds, 2 ounces is not sweet. It sucks ass. Truth dart. It does. It's horrible. Is it easy enough to replace? Yeah. But then again, why do we have to spend money doing that? Now we've got to go out and spend another $200, maybe $125, put a different trigger in it, or get it smithed. Why? Trigger guard is standard AR-15. There's not even a large trigger guard. Even the MCX has it. Check that out. A lot of the ARs I've been bringing to the table have it as an upgraded feature. So they got it for the MCX, but apparently for the 516, since it's an older gun, doesn't embody those cooler features. Yeah, it's a miss. It's a big miss. Ambi controls, they got a safety And I'm looking to make sure because I review so many guns. But you don't have an ambi release in case you're interested. So it's a right-handed gun. If you're a lefty, forget about it. QD cups here, 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 one in the stock. This is the same pistol grip we ran on the MCX, and you can see I never change it out because it works. It's got good stippling on sides. It's got a storage, thing on compartment in the middle. I do put one battery for my illuminated scope. That is a Leupold scope that I'm running on there. Illuminated. Great longer range scope. I love it. Note, since it's got QD cups, you're not going to have like a sling plate right here, and that will take us to the stock, which is a Bravo 5 Systems Bravo stock, and it kind of reminds me of a Rock River stock. So there's a fair amount of movement here. There's really no way to lock this stock down. It's got a great rollover cheek pad on it. Not pad, but cheek rest on it. Just like we see in the Rock River. It really reminds me of the Rock River one with a rubber recoil pad. It's okay. But is it top end? Does it warrant the price? I'm not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it. And there's some other things. I'm thinking if I'm going to break into this thing and show it to you. I guess I will. I'm going to do it right now super quick and we'll just take a look at it. Remember what I was saying, that it flushes? Like it was giving me a lot of carbon fouling. Most of the piston guns I fired with a suppressor on it do not do that. And this is going to be messy, so bear with me as I prepare. This one, though, was, if I remember right, and you'll see it in the video, just kind of flush in the face. Definitely want to have glasses on, safety glasses on when you're firing this one. Standard triggering, see how dirty it is, that's what I'm talking about. This is kind of a cool feature right here on the 5.16. That is a lower receiver tightening pin. I can't get my light, but it's right here. It's just something that will tighten up against this so there's no wiggle, so you don't need to AccuWedge it. M4 feed ramps in here. And let's take a look at the BCG. I was going to pull out my BCG from a M6A2 LWRC. We still have. I meant to do it, forgot, just to see if it would fit for fun. This is what it looks like though. So it's just standard piston. Enlarged area here to prevent carrier tilt, which I could not detect any carrier tilt at all in the back. And when I said it has a lot of carbon, I'm just saying from the can. So that's what I'm saying, is from the suppressor. Hey, that'll happen every time. Yeah, it will to a certain extent. I'll tell you this though, some piston guns run cleaner than others. Some do. Every magazine we worked with, it worked. Oh wait, maybe not. Now remember what I said, we did some cold weather testing, and I do have these magazines on here for a reason this time. We tried GI, aluminum, it seemed to like those best. We tried some PMags. If I remember, we did have some stoppages, failure to feeds, maybe just one or two with some PMags. And the Lancers also seemed like they had an issue with the 5.16 in the cold. So is it the gun? Is it the magazine? I kind of tend towards the gun because I did run it in some other test beds we had out that day and they ran fine. So hard to say. Other than that though, it'll take all the magazines. I would recommend that if you have a 5.16, test your mags. Make sure it likes them. I think you'll find most people don't really say it's magazine finicky. I want to represent that. And then that will of course lead us into track record. Nothing fancy. Why do you not just totally dig this gun? Well, because it didn't run very well. That's why. Yes, we ran steel in it. Not a lot, but some steel. And it choked a lot with steel. And then I was like, okay, not working with steel. Let's run some brass, see what it does. And then even with brass, we had multiple light primer strikes. Multiple. It was kind of the theme for the whole outing. Actually, a subsequent outing as well. You'll see it in video that we're click, nothing happens, we eject around, we look at it, light primer strike. It's almost like it was failing to go into battery, and yes, we tried to make sure it did go into battery. You know, forward assist was fully seated, you punch that, feels like it's right. But let's stop here and say, do you really need to do that? If you have to do that every time you're firing a gun, you need to sell it and get another one. Says me. So it was problematic. Lots of light primer strikes. It just didn't run 100%. We had a lot of problems with it. Now, what ammo did we run? I did read one guy say, and this is what you always see, the excuse patrol. Hey, only run high pressure NATO ammo in a 5.16. It's a high quality firearm. It demands high quality ammunition. And to that I say bunk. Like I've said before, if I can get a Smith & Wesson M&P 15 Sport 2 and it will cycle everything I put in it, and it's only $600, then why shouldn't a $1,500 tactical carbine run that too? I don't care if it's piston or DI. Oh, good point. That's what I'm saying. One dude even went as far as to cut an inch off the recoil spring to make his SIG 5.16 reliable. I think it was an earlier generation. He too was having failures to feed, wouldn't go, stoppages, and it just seemed like it was undergassed. And so he cut off a spring. I'm not recommending that at all. I'm just trying to represent what some people have done, trying to get it to run the 5.16. Speaking of gassing, if you're wondering, yes, we did all the settings here on the front end to include adverse conditions. It did not help. Now, SIG says that the adverse conditions should only be used temporarily for, you guessed it, adverse conditions, right? But if it's not cycling it around, if you determine that it's under gas, why not try it? We did. Didn't help. And, we tried some lighter gas settings. Since we're running a can on it, that didn't help either. Now, I don't want to say that it was completely unreliable. It wasn't. It was just sporadic. So it would run good, and you'll see that in the video if I'm remembering right. I hope I am. We're pop, 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 and the next thing you know, we're having some issues with it. We did take it out, lubricate it, clean it top to bottom, and it helped a little bit, actually. It did run a little bit better after that, but there were still problems. I think a lot of guys bought off on the SIG 5.16 because SIG put out a torture test video of it. I think it was some foreign military that was going to buy the 5.16. Maybe they did it, and they made a video, and a lot of guys saw that and go, oh my gosh, that is the gun to have. And they went out and bought it. And then they find out, for whatever reason, it's not really working great for them. Some guys will absolutely love it. So I will say track record was poor in our testing. With a sample of one. It is what it is. Accuracy was also unimpressive. Remember, this gun is $1,500. There was another accuracy target I had with different ammunition, and it was about the same, different loads. So we're shooting what, about 3 MOA? Maybe a little bit worse on some of those groups. So getting back to the barrel, what I said, I was like, yeah, on paper it sounds good, but when we see that accuracy, is it really that good? That was off a polymer table in the desert, but we shoot MOA out there all the time. And I've brought a lot of paper to the table showing you that. So I would call accuracy fair. Yes, it's a piston gun. It's a short stroke piston. There's more mass. There's more stuff moving around up here. That's another reason I've kind of steered away from piston guns for the most part, except the MCX. The MCX shoots way, way better than that. It will be MOA if you're very careful with the load it likes, the SIG MCX. So the way I look at these two guns, and they're from the same manufacturers, this is new generation, new technology, newer way of thinking. This is older generation, older way of thinking. There you go. The word's out now. Value. Is it worth it? I kind of answer that question. For me, it is not. I'd get an MCX all day long over that, or any number of DI guns. If I want to spend $1,450, I'll throw in another $100 and go get a POF Renegade, plus. That one I just reviewed a few months ago. That thing's insane. DI gun, it outperformed this in every phase, though. There you go. Nothing fancy.
I don't know where the target is.
Hit it.
Where?
You're
oh,
too
there
low.
we go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, zoom in on it.